So, a quick recap of Sunday. We narrowed the knowledge bottleneck down to its most concentrated point in a CPA form, the review pile. Every tax return and financial statement sitting on your desk, complete, technically done, but unable to leave until it goes through you. And I told you the root cause. Your firm has no documented quality management system. You are the quality management system, and until something gets built to hold your standard somewhere other than your head, the reviews never leave your desk. And I showed you the 5 documents to fix this. Today we're building the most important one, the review checklist. Not a generic checklist, not something downloaded from a template site, but yours, built directly from how you actually review, not how you think you review. And that distinction matters more than anything else. I'm going to say it today, and let me show you why. The first is the memory versus observation. And here's how most firms try to build a review checklist, right? They sit a partner down, give them a blank document, and ask them to write out what they check when they return a review. And the partner writes a list. It's reasonable, it's professional, it cuts the obvious bases. It covers the obvious bases. And then the manager uses it, and the partner reviews the work and finds things the managers missed. And the thing that they missed weren't on that list, because the list was built from memory, and memory produces the official process, the conscious, articulable version of how you actually review. What memory doesn't produce is the real process, the things you check automatically, the patterns you notice before you consciously decided to look for them, the sequence you actually follow versus the sequence you think you follow. Those things only surface through observation, not asking the partner what they check, watching them check in real time on a real return. And that is how the Cesara review checklist gets built. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's how you run it. So block 90 minutes, pull a real return from the current pile or from a recently completed one, not a simple one, a representative one, the one your firm produces most frequently. Now do your review, but out loud, not in your head like, no, speak it as you're doing it. Every step, every item you look at, every place your eye goes to on the page, every calculation you verify, every document you cross-reference, every moment where something makes you pause. Say what made you pause. You're narrating your own review process in real time, and someone is writing it down. Not summarizing, writing down exactly what you say, every item, every sequence point, every hesitation. That person can be a senior team member, a manager, a trusted colleague, anyone who can write fast and ask one question. What are you looking at right now? They don't need to understand the technical content. They need to capture what you're doing in what sequence. This session produces the raw material for your checklist, not a polished list, a complete capture of what actually happens during a real review, including the things you've never consciously named before. After this observation, you have a document, detailed, probably a bit messy, full of narrated steps and pauses and things that sounded obvious as you said them. Now you process it looking out for 4 things. The first one is the sequence. Here's where you look at, okay, what did you look at first? Then what? Then what? The order matters because an experienced reviewer doesn't check things randomly. They don't go from point A to point B, then point Z, then point C. They follow a sequence that builds understanding progressively. Each item checked in context of what was checked before. A manager who knows the sequence produces consistent reviews. A manager who knows the items but not the sequence misses things that only become visible in a specific order. So pull the sequence out of the raw material, make it explicit. 2. The pauses. Every time you pause during the observation session, something made you pause. A number that perhaps looked slightly off, a document that didn't match something else, a pattern that triggered a closer look. Those pauses are where you experience judgment lives, and they're almost never on a memory built checklist because they don't feel like steps. They feel like instinct. And they aren't instinct, they are just pattern recognition, and they are transferable if you name them. So go through the raw material and find every pause. Name what was triggered, add it to the checklist, and make it an explicit checkpoint. The third, the cross references. So every time you move from one document to another, from the return to the prior year, from the financial statement to the supporting schedules, from the current figures to the client's own records, that movement back and forth was intentional. Experienced reviewers cross reference in specific patterns that less experienced reviewers don't know what to follow. Those patterns need to be explicit on the checklist. For the verbal flags, every time you said, this is the thing most people miss, or this is where mistakes usually happen, or this one always needs a second look. Those are your high value checklist items. They are the things they are the things experience has told you to double check. The places where errors cluster, the moments where a junior reviewer moves on too quickly. Circle every verbal in the raw material because these become the priority items on the checklist, the ones that need extra attention. Now, you build a document. Three sections in this order. The first section is the pre-review orientation. So, before a single item gets checked, what does the reviewer need to orientate themselves to this specific return or financial statement? To orient themselves to this specific return or financial statement. So it could be questions as, first, who is the client? Right? What is their situation? Are they known for complexities or sensitivities from the prior years? What is their primary risk area for this particular engagement? This section takes 2 minutes to complete, and it eliminates the single most common cause for review errors. A manager checking items in isolation without understanding the context that makes certain items higher risk for this specific client. The second question is the sequential checklist. Every item from the observation session in sequence, named specifically, not check the numbers, but verify depreciation schedule totals against fixed asset register. Not general, specific. The more specific the item, the less judgment required to execute it. And the less judgment required, the more consistently it gets done to your standard. Group the items by logical phase. Income items, deduction items, credit items, supporting schedules, prior year comparisons, client-specific risk areas. Each item is a checkbox. Simple, binary, either it was checked or it wasn't. The third section is the sign off threshold. So before a manager signs off, 3 questions they must be able to answer yes to. The first one is, does this work meet the quality standard? Is there anything on this return that triggers the 3R rule, which is the reputation, revenue, or relationship? And am I confident that this can leave the firm without the partner's review? If the answer to any of these is no or it's uncertain, it comes back and that's the line. That 3 questions sign off converts the checklist from a task list to an ownership transfer. The manager isn't just like checking boxes. They're making professional judgment call and signing their name onto it. And this is what ownership looks like. So week 1, after you build it, test it. Give the checklist to your manager. Give them a real return, that one that has already been reviewed and it's clean. Don't tell them it's clean. Ask them to review using the checklist and sign off. Then look at what they flagged, what they missed, what they signed off on comfortably versus what made them hesitate. Compare that to what you have flagged. The gap between their output and yours, that's the gap in the diagnostic. It tells you exactly what's missing from the checklist, a sequence point that wasn't explicit enough, a cross reference that wasn't named, a pause trigger that was in your head but not on the page. Add those items again, test it. Within 2 or 3 iterations, the gap closes significantly. Not because your manager became a different person, but because the checklist now carries enough of your judgment that they can produce your standard without needing to be you. And that's the goal. This week, one observation session. So 90 minutes, a real return out loud. Someone writing it down, or you can even use a note taker. Now, don't build this checklist from memory. Build it from what actually happens when you review. And that's the difference between a checklist that gets used for 60 days and one that actually holds your standard permanently. Thursday, in 2 weeks, we're going to go into the escalation protocol. The 3 R's in writing, the 3 R in writing, the document that defines exactly what comes to you and gives your manager the authority to handle everything else. The dependency score is in the description. It maps out exactly how concentrated your review bottleneck currently is and where the checklist will have the most immediate impact. One observation this week. See you on Sunday.